Pycnogenol is a pine bark extract backed by 39 human trials. And it is the compound that restored Carol's artery walls' ability to repair themselves during the 8 hours she spent asleep every night. Her name was Carol. She was 64. Her hands were cold every morning. Not dramatically, just noticeably, even in summer. She woke with a low heaviness behind her sternum. Not pain. A tightness she had started accepting as normal. Her cardiologist had just told her she had stable coronary artery disease. She was on a statin. She was walking every morning, and her numbers stayed exactly where they were. Not getting worse, her doctor said, but not getting better. Nobody had told Carol what was actually happening inside her arteries every night while she slept. Quick test before we go further. Press both thumbs firmly against the back of your opposite hand. Hold for 10 seconds. Release, and watch how fast the color comes back. If everything is working the way it should, color comes back in 2 to 3 seconds. If the color takes more than 3 seconds to return, that is your body showing you exactly what this episode is about. Carol ran this test the morning she started researching why her numbers had not moved in 3 years. Stay with me, because what Carol found when she started researching that test result is the part nobody had told her. What Korean hanbang tradition had encoded generations before any clinical trial confirmed it. Pine bark preparations have been used in Korean medicine for circulatory support for centuries. When I began tracing why my Korean patients with stable cardiovascular conditions were maintaining artery wall function better than their charts predicted, the thread kept pointing back to pine bark. Western researchers spent decades catching up. 39 randomized controlled trials, more than 2,000 subjects, to arrive at what traditional practice had already observed. And what those researchers found changed the way I think about those 8 hours your body has every night. Every night, while you sleep, something is supposed to happen inside your blood vessels. During deep sleep, your heart rate drops, your blood pressure eases. The inner lining of your arteries is supposed to shift from survival mode into repair mode. This is the tissue that lines every vessel in your body, like the inside of a garden hose. That window is real. The science is real. And for most people over 60 with any cardiovascular history, that repair window exists, but nothing happens inside it. Not because the window closes, because the lining that's supposed to do the repairing has lost the ability to respond. And here is where Carol found the answer, because it was not in any cardiologist's guideline. The compound that changed that for Carol wasn't a prescription. It wasn't a procedure. It was pycnogenol. And it has never appeared in a single cardiology treatment guideline. Now, I need to explain what is happening inside that lining, because most people managing stable heart disease have never been told. Your inner artery lining, the tissue your cardiologist never directly measures at a routine appointment, is already losing its ability to respond. Not dramatically, not painfully, just gradually, year by year, in a way no routine blood test picks up. The molecule your blood vessels use to widen and repair themselves becomes less available. That molecule is nitric oxide, the signaling molecule at the center of this process. The inner lining becomes less able to receive the repair signal your body is still trying to send. And the nightly repair window your cardiovascular system was designed to use? It runs, but it runs on empty. Without something that works at the artery wall directly, that decline does not stop on its own. The artery wall's ability to widen when it needs to decreases year over year. The artery wall gets stiffer. The overnight repair window continues to open, but the lining responds less completely each year. If you pressed your thumbs just now and the color took longer than 3 seconds to return, you are not measuring a future risk. You are measuring how much the lining has already lost, right now. That is the reading Carol got the morning she started asking questions. Let me show you exactly what the trial found. because when I read it myself, I could not believe it was not standard care. Here is the trial that stopped me in my tracks. Patients with stable coronary artery disease. Average age 63, same diagnosis as Carol. They took pycnogenol at 200 milligrams every evening for 8 weeks, and the measure researchers used to check whether the artery wall is actually responding. It improved by 32%. I kept asking myself the same question when I read it. Why has not one of my cardiology colleagues ever mentioned this? It has never appeared in a single treatment guideline. Because pycnogenol cannot be patented. No pharmaceutical company has a reason to fund it, so a compound with 39 human trials behind it stays invisible to the system your doctor works inside. And then I started watching my own patients, and what I saw made the trial data make complete sense. The pattern I noticed in my own clinic started with patients whose baseline numbers had been flat for years. Stable coronary artery disease, medication on time, everything by the book, nothing visibly moving. Several of them reported the same things independently. Morning fatigue that had nothing to do with how well they slept. Hands that stayed cold longer than expected. Exercise capacity that stopped improving before their heart condition explained it. These are signals from the artery wall. None of them show up on a standard cholesterol panel. When I began tracking patients who introduced pycnogenol, not generic pine bark, pycnogenol specifically, what I saw next was different enough from anything else I had tried that it put this compound in a separate category. Pycnogenol does something your morning statin cannot. I want to explain that difference, because once you see it, you understand why the prescription alone was never going to be enough. A statin reduces the cholesterol buildup inside the vessel. That is a real and important step, but it does not restore the vessel wall's ability to produce the molecule your arteries need to widen and repair themselves. The inner lining of your arteries is not just a passive tube. It is an active tissue that manufactures its own repair signals. When the lining loses that ability, it becomes stiff and less responsive. It can no longer do the repair work that sleep is designed to make possible. Carol was managing the statin protocol exactly as her cardiologist had prescribed. It was the factory inside the artery wall that wasn't getting what it needed. Let me show you exactly what that means, because the analogy makes it click. Think of your artery wall as a pipe with a self-repair factory built into its lining. The factory produces the signals that widen the pipe, clear out waste, and restore wall flexibility. That factory capacity, the artery lining's ability to respond and repair, is what researchers call endothelial function. The active compounds in pycnogenol increase the availability of the signaling molecule the factory uses to run the repair cycle. The statin addresses what flows through the pipe. The extract restores the factory's ability to respond to its own repair instructions. This is the overnight repair window, the 8 hours when your arteries do their repair work while you sleep. The daytime piece is a separate video. This is what runs at night. The way researchers measure whether this is working is actually straightforward. They look at how much the inner lining of an artery widens when blood flow briefly increases. When that number improves, it means the lining has recovered its ability to respond. In patients with confirmed coronary artery disease, average age 63, that measure improved 32% at 200 milligrams per day over 8 weeks. Not in young athletes. Not in a cell line, in people managing the same diagnosis Carol was managing. That is what happened to Carol's artery wall. In the next part of this video, I am going to show you exactly how the repair signal works, and the one timing mistake that stops it from running. What finally convinced me was not the trial data. It was what my patients kept telling me the morning after. The ones who started taking pycnogenol in the evening, they all described the same thing. Less tightness when they woke up, warmer hands earlier in the day. A quality of circulation in that first hour after sleep that they hadn't felt in years. I'm Dr. Sarah Kim, and when patient after patient with stable coronary artery disease describes the same change in the same window, you pay attention. Carol described it the same way. Let's start with the repair signal itself, the factory inside the artery wall that this protocol is designed to restore. Earlier in this video, we talked about the artery wall as a pipe with a self-repair factory built into its lining. The factory produces the molecule that tells the pipe to widen, clear out waste, and restore its own flexibility. That molecule is nitric oxide, the signaling molecule at the center of this repair sequence. The specific worker inside the factory that produces it is an enzyme called ENOS, endothelial nitric oxide synthase, the body's artery repair enzyme. In a healthy artery wall, ENOS runs consistently. In an artery wall under years of pressure and stress, or the gradual wear of age and heart disease, ENOS activity decreases. The factory is still there. The repair enzyme is still present. What has been lost is the activation signal the factory needs to do its job, and this is exactly where pycnogenol comes in. Because what it does to that activation signal is precisely what the trial was measuring. The active compounds in pycnogenol, the procyanidins, get ENOS running again at the inner lining of the artery wall. The result is measurable. The artery widens more when blood flow briefly increases. That artery wall responsiveness measure is the proof that the factory is running. In a randomized trial of stable coronary artery disease patients, average age 63, pycnogenol at 200 milligrams produced a 32% improvement over 8 weeks. Not in healthy volunteers. In patients with confirmed heart disease whose artery walls had already declined, Carol's artery wall was running the same ENOS pathway. What pycnogenol gave back was the activation signal the factory had stopped receiving. That is the factory. Now, I want to show you the window, because the timing of when this runs is the part most people miss entirely. The factory matters, but the window matters just as much. A maintenance crew cannot repair a highway while traffic is running at full speed. The repair shift opens when the highway goes quiet. Your cardiovascular system follows the same logic. During deep sleep, heart rate slows. Blood pressure drops to its lowest point in the 24-hour cycle. The pressure on the artery wall drops sharply. That drop in demand is the signal that tells your artery cells to switch from working mode into repair mode. The overnight window is not passive downtime. It is a repair shift your cardiovascular system was built to run. When ENOS activity is low and the factory cannot respond to the repair signal, the maintenance crew arrives but cannot do the work. That is the window Carol's artery wall had been missing. The repair crew was arriving every night. The factory couldn't respond. Now, here's the part that changes how you think about when to take this. Because the timing is not about convenience. Here is why the timing matters so much. After you take pycnogenol, it takes about 2 to 4 hours to reach its peak in your bloodstream, and it stays there for 6 to 8 hours. Take it 30 to 60 minutes before sleep, and the peak lands right in the middle of the overnight repair window. That is exactly when the repair enzyme has the least to compete with and the most opportunity to run. The 32% improvement in the trial, that is what 8 weeks of hitting that window correctly looks like. Carol's protocol was built around this timing from day one. A morning dose places peak concentration during peak cardiovascular demand, when the artery wall needs to perform, not repair. The protocol is simple, but there are 4 specific ways people run it wrong, and one of them is a genuine safety issue I want you to hear before you order anything. The first mistake most people make is buying the wrong product entirely. The shelves and online marketplaces are full of products labeled simply pine bark extract or maritime pine. The research evidence, all 39 randomized controlled trials, is for pycnogenol specifically. It is a standardized extract from French maritime pine bark. The concentration is fixed and verified. A generic pine bark capsule at an unspecified concentration is not the same compound. The fix. Look for pycnogenol by name on the label. If it says pine bark extract without the pycnogenol name, it is a different product without the same research behind it. Carol's first search turned up 3 products without the name pycnogenol anywhere on the label. She almost bought one. The second mistake is timing, and it is the one that quietly cancels the protocol's entire purpose. Most people, when they add a new supplement, fold it into their morning routine. This makes sense as a habit. But for this specific compound, the timing is everything. Its job is to restore the artery lining's responsiveness during the overnight repair window. Taking it in the morning places peak levels in your bloodstream during your busiest cardiovascular hours. Carol's instinct was to take it in the morning, the same habit she had with her statin. That is when the artery wall needs to perform, not repair. The fix: move the dose to the evening, before sleep. 1 capsule with water, 30 to 60 minutes before you go to bed. That puts the compound exactly where it needs to be. That one is a timing fix. The next one is different. And if you are on any blood-thinning medication, I need you to stop here. Nothing in this video is medical advice. The research presented here is drawn from peer-reviewed, published clinical trials and is shared for educational purposes only. If you are managing a cardiovascular diagnosis, taking any prescription medication, particularly blood thinners, antiplatelet agents, or anticoagulants, or considering adding any supplement to your protocol, involve your physician before making changes. The interaction data presented in this video is real and requires individual evaluation by a qualified provider. The third mistake is the most serious one, and if you are on any blood-thinning medication, this is not optional. This is not a formality. It is a genuine safety issue. Pycnogenol has a documented effect on how your blood clots. At 100 milligrams, it was shown in a human trial to equal 500 milligrams of aspirin for inhibiting blood clotting. At 200 milligrams, the dose in this protocol, that activity is greater and lasts longer. If you are on warfarin, clopidogrel, apixaban, rivaroxaban, ticagrelor, or even daily low-dose aspirin, adding this compound without physician guidance is not acceptable. Carol's medication list had one item on it that mattered. She brought it to her cardiologist before she ordered anything. The fix: before you order anything, bring a list of every medication you take to your prescribing physician or cardiologist. This is not a conversation to have after the fact. It is the first step. That one requires a conversation with your doctor first. The last mistake is quieter, and it is the reason most people don't complete the protocol. The fourth mistake is the one that most quietly undoes all the work that came before it. This is the most quietly destructive mistake of the 4. The early warmth in circulation, the slight improvement in morning energy. Those signals arrive in weeks 1 and 2. And for many people, that early signal reads as, "It worked, I'm done." So they stop. The truth is that restoring the artery lining takes time. It builds gradually. The early signal is confirmation the process has started, not that it has completed. The research measured the primary outcome at 8 weeks. The lining is still rebuilding at week 3 when the early signals arrive. Stopping then is like leaving a building renovation after the scaffolding goes up. The fix: commit to 8 weeks minimum before evaluating outcomes. Mark it on a calendar from the day you start. The early signals are encouragement, not a finish line. Carol made this exact mistake. She noticed the early improvement in morning circulation at day 11 and quietly stopped refilling her supply. 3 weeks later, the morning tightness was back. She restarted the protocol, committed to the full calendar, and finished the 8 weeks. before I close, let me tell you what happened to Carol. Carol is 8 weeks into her evening protocol. Her cardiologist ran the same panel he runs every 6 months. Her artery wall responsiveness had improved. The measure the trial tracked, a 32% gain in patients with her diagnosis at this dose over 8 weeks. Her doctor asked what she had changed. She told him about pycnogenol. He looked it up. He told her to keep going. And that, right there, is the conversation I want you to be able to have with your own doctor. The inner lining of your arteries exists in you right now. The overnight repair window exists in you right now. The capacity that determines whether those repair systems actually run, that is what this protocol addresses. The question is not whether your cardiovascular system can do this. It can. The question is whether the inner lining is still responsive enough to receive the signal when the window opens tonight. 1 capsule every evening, consistently, for 8 weeks. That is where this starts. Next, I am covering quercetin, the daily maintenance layer that runs parallel to the overnight repair window this episode addressed. If pine bark is what you take before sleep, quercetin is the daily layer. That quercetin episode is the direct companion to this one. If you want that episode in your feed, subscribe now. The quercetin companion covers a mechanism your doctor is equally unlikely to have mentioned. If this information was useful, share it with someone who needs it. A spouse, a sibling, a friend managing the same diagnosis, who has been getting the same keep monitoring it answer.